High in the freezing Andes Mountains, a group of young men faced the unthinkable. 72 days, no food, no rescue, no way out, except through the dead. On October 13, 1972, Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 was carrying 45 passengers, mostly young members of a Uruguayan rugby team and their families, to Chile for a match. But over the Andes, the weather turned. The pilot misjudged their location, and the plane slammed into a mountainside at 14,000 feet. 12 people died instantly. Others were critically injured, buried in snow, or thrown from the wreckage. The survivors were left in an unforgiving hellscape, surrounded by mountains, freezing winds, and no food. In the chaos, survival instinct kicked in. The players and their families aged between 19 and 25 tried to stay warm, tend to the injured, and preserve what little food they had. A few chocolate bars, wine, and snacks. Leadership emerged quickly. Nando Parado, who had just lost his mother in the crash and whose sister would die days later, rose as a pillar of strength. He and others began organizing searches for help, rationing food, and building shelter from plane debris. Hope was all they had. In those first few days, it kept them going. But reality hit hard. The food ran out. Search planes flew overhead but never saw them. At night, the temperatures dropped below -20 degrees Celsius. Survivors huddled together, freezing, starving, and desperate. Then, the unthinkable. They made a decision no human should ever have to make. They ate the bodies of their dead friends. The frozen corpses were preserved in the snow. It wasn't murder. It wasn't madness. It was survival. They cried. They prayed. They begged for forgiveness, but they lived, and then an avalanche hit. 8 more died, buried alive. Hope was fading fast. But Nando Parado wasn't done. With fellow survivor Roberto Canessa, he climbed out of the crash site and began a 10-day trek through the deadly Andes with nothing but a handmade sleeping bag and scraps of food. They walked over 38 miles, through snow, over glaciers, starving, hallucinating, until they saw a Chilean herdsman across a river. Help was finally coming. After 72 grueling days, 16 survivors were airlifted out. Gaunt, frostbitten, and forever changed, but alive. Their story became legend, not just for the horrors, but for the strength of the human spirit, for the courage to survive, for the choices no one should ever face, but did. It wasn't just hunger or cold that threatened them, it was hopelessness. But together, they refused to die. Hope, unity, resilience. That's what saved them in the Andes. Want more horror stories and mysteries videos? Subscribe now.